Okay, hello everyone and welcome to Teacher Webinar 7, Introduction to the Entrepreneurial Mindset. This is the first part in our new webinar series on the topic of cultivating entrepreneurial mindsets and preparing young people for the future, a journey from business idea to plan. Today's webinar is brought to you by Teach Man to Fish. We are an educational charity based in the United Kingdom whose mission is to empower young people with the skills that they need to succeed in school, work, and life. My name is India Jankel, and I work on our wonderful program, the School Enterprise Challenge, run by us here at Teach Man to Fish. Before we start, I'd just like to quickly share some ground rules for today's webinar. You'll notice that you're all on mute at the moment. That's because there's quite a lot of us in today's webinar, so we can't all be speaking at the same time. But don't worry, because there will be plenty of opportunities to interact with other participants later on. At regular points in the webinar, I will ask questions, which you can either answer via the text box, which some of you are using to introduce yourselves already, or via the various polls which will appear on screen. And I'll also invite some of you to turn on your audio and video and share your comments with the rest of the group. Just so you know, this webinar is also being streamed live on Facebook. If you're watching on Facebook, hello. You're experiencing this webinar with about a 20-second delay. And if you write any comments, I won't see them myself, but my colleague Susanna is kindly over there on Facebook, and she will be answering any questions or comments that you have. So before we get stuck into the content for today's webinar, it would be great if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself by using the chat box, letting us know your name, which country you're joining from, and maybe also whether this is your first webinar or whether you've attended some of the previous webinars. It would be great to see who we've got with us here today. I'll just give you about 30 seconds or so to say hello now in the chat box. I saw earlier we have got Kamal from Nepal, Drona from Nepal as well. We've got teachers from Kenya, India, South Africa. Lots of people who have attended the previous webinars. It's great to have you back again with us today. Thank you so much, and please do carry on introducing yourselves while I get started. So first, let's take a look at what we're going to be covering today. So the duration of this webinar will be between around 45 minutes to 1 hour. And in the next hour, we are going to be looking at, first of all, what an entrepreneurial mindset is, why it's important, and how you can develop it through experiential learning, including a quick look at the School Enterprise Challenge. After that, I will be sharing with you 2 activities which you can do with your learners to help them develop their entrepreneurial mindset. And those are storytelling and reflection and my superhero profile. All will become clear when I explain them later. And finally, I will share a tool with you, which you and your learners can use to keep all of this in mind about the entrepreneurial mindset in the future. And that one is called the 5 Beliefs of an Entrepreneurial Person. At the end of this webinar, I will also share with you all a link to a survey. And when you complete the survey after the webinar, you will be emailed your certificate of attendance. And I'll also share these presentation slides with you by email and a list of useful resources for further reading. So there's no need to take notes of what's on screen today if you don't want to. Okay, hopefully that sounds good to you all, so it's time to get started. So, as I mentioned earlier, today's webinar is the first part in our new series on cultivating entrepreneurial mindsets and preparing young people for the future, a journey from business idea to plan. Before this, we ran 6 webinars, and they were on the topics of growth mindset, supporting students to learn from mistakes, supporting students to become better problem solvers, the power of effective questioning, appreciative inquiry, and finally a Q&A with 4 really inspirational teachers talking about their experience of facilitating experiential learning through the School Enterprise Challenge. And if you didn't attend those sessions, don't worry, because you can find them all on YouTube, and the links are on the slide at the end of this presentation. So the first 6 webinars covered some important elements of experiential learning and really helped to set the scene for the type of environment that you need to create to enable effective experiential learning to happen. And in this new webinar series, we are going to be sharing with you how you can implement experiential learning in your classroom. So we'll be walking you through the process of facilitating your learners to come up with a great business idea and create a business plan. And we'll continue to share lots of tools and activities, and we'll be taking an extra close look at the skills which your learners will need and will develop on their journey from coming up with a business idea to developing it into a full business plan. But before we dive into those knowledge and skills which are required to plan a successful business, we wanted to first explore the foundations and the essence of what makes an entrepreneur, which brings us to today's topic, the entrepreneurial mindset. Now, I'm interested to know, before today's webinar, had you ever heard of the phrase entrepreneurial mindset before? I'm going to launch a poll on screen now, so you can let me know, had you ever heard of the entrepreneurial mindset before today's webinar? And you can answer yes, no, or I'm not sure. So I'll just give you a few moments to vote now. Okay, the vote's coming. I'll give you a few more seconds. It's looking like the majority of you had heard of entrepreneurial mindset, which is fantastic. So you should have lots to contribute to the discussion. A few people haven't heard of it, and just a couple aren't sure. Most of you have voted now, so I will end that now. Thanks for letting me know. So for those of you that haven't heard of entrepreneurial mindset, don't worry, because we are going to be going through it together now. So the first question is, what is a mindset? Well, we all have a mindset, but we're often not aware of it or of the effect that it has on our lives. So a mindset is a system which is made up of the beliefs, the assumptions, and the knowledge which we use to process information. And our mindset informs the decisions that we make, and it guides our behavior. An entrepreneurial mindset, then, is a specific set of beliefs, knowledge, and thought processes which drives entrepreneurial behavior. It's really a way of thinking. But what actually is the entrepreneurial behavior which comes from having an entrepreneurial mindset? Well, it's actually not just about starting companies. In fact, the core of entrepreneurship is building a solution to a problem. So it involves identifying needs, brainstorming creative solutions, innovating, taking calculated risks. In short, it's about having a vision and making it a reality. And when you think about it that way, it becomes clear that really everyone has the natural ability to be entrepreneurial. So, for example, as children, the skills which we use to learn to walk demonstrate these entrepreneurial qualities. We get up, we fall down, we have another go, we keep trying and trying until we succeed and we can walk on our own. And that's just one example of entrepreneurial behavior. So let's take a closer look now at some of the other characteristics which people with an entrepreneurial mindset tend to have. So the first characteristic is that they have efficacy. And this means that they believe in themselves. They believe in their ability to influence the events that affect their life and to have control over the way that these events are experienced, which is sometimes known as having an internal locus of control. So, in other words, they believe in their ability to succeed and influence their own life outcomes, even if they don't know how to do something just yet, which links back to the growth mindset that we explored in webinar 1. So the second characteristic is that they have purpose and they understand that they create value by making themselves useful to other people. So related to this, people with an entrepreneurial mindset tend to see problems as potential opportunities. And to turn problems into opportunities, they need to be resourceful, creative, highly resilient, and solutions oriented. And of course, to follow through on the ideas and plans that they come up with. The fourth characteristic is that people with an entrepreneurial mindset tend to have compelling goals which keep them focused on the future and intrinsically motivated. So, in other words, they are motivated to perform an activity for its own sake and the personal rewards that come with accomplishing it, rather than to earn an award or to avoid a punishment. So, this makes them really self directed, driven, and inspired to take action. And the final characteristic, which I wanted to highlight, is that people with an entrepreneurial mindset are curious and they're constantly seeking knowledge and opportunities to learn. So they are not afraid to put their ideas out there, to test them and get feedback from others. So in summary, at Teach a Man to Fish, we believe that an entrepreneurial mindset is a way of thinking which enables you to overcome challenges, to be decisive, and to accept responsibility for your outcomes. It is the constant need to improve your skills, to learn from your mistakes, and to take continuous action on your ideas. Now, of course, it is a complex concept, and other people and organizations may have a slightly different way of defining it. So I'd like to take a moment now to find out what do you think about this definition, and are there any other characteristics which come to your mind when you think of people with an entrepreneurial mindset and what entrepreneurial mindset means to you? I saw that Nitin commented that they have future vision, they're open-minded and risk bearers, absolutely right. If anyone else has any other characteristics, comments they'd like to share, please do. And I'll give you a few seconds to do that now. Shruti adds that they have a tendency towards taking risks, absolutely. Great, thank you for sharing your comments. So now that we all have a common understanding of what an entrepreneurial mindset is, the next question is, why is it important to have one? In short, it's because these characteristics and qualities are what will enable young people to succeed in an ever-changing world. So employers are increasingly demanding that people have the ability to recognize and take advantage of new opportunities. A study led by the independent research group, the Institute for the Future, concluded that in 2030, entrepreneurial traits such as vision, perseverance, creative problem solving, and learning agility will be critical for all workers to employ. And indeed, it's often said that many of the jobs that will exist in the next few years and decades haven't even been invented yet. And so to keep pace with these emerging technologies and the evolving skill sets which employers demand, young people entering the workforce will need to be flexible, they'll need to be adaptable and committed to continuous learning and growth and development. And what's interesting is that having an entrepreneurial mindset doesn't necessarily mean that you have to become a business person. In fact, everyone needs an entrepreneurial mindset to succeed in life, whatever they choose to do. And that's because the characteristics which define great entrepreneurs, like innovative thinking, problem solving, determination, are also assets within larger companies as well. And some people call this intrapreneurship, or bringing the entrepreneurial mindset into a corporate environment. So it's really critical to help students understand that experimentation, learning from failure, and developing strong entrepreneurial skills will set them up to do great things in life, whether that's launching their own startup or climbing the ladder in a bigger company. So you might be wondering by now, how can you cultivate an entrepreneurial mindset in your learners? Well, it's important to understand that an entrepreneurial mindset is influenced by multiple factors, and they include what people know or don't know, so related to their knowledge, what people have done or not done, so that's related to their life experience, what people can do or believe they can do, so related to their level of competency and self-belief, and finally, who they are. So by that I mean their personality, their values, their attitudes, and their beliefs. So as you can see, there are lots of interrelated elements which come together to form an entrepreneurial mindset. And that means that there's no silver bullet or single path to follow to help you develop one. But the good news is that anyone that's willing to do the work can develop an entrepreneurial mindset. And it can be developed and enhanced over time through entrepreneurial experiences, which is why, as educators, we must create experiential learning opportunities within our classrooms and our communities. And don't forget, an entrepreneurial mindset can't be taught in theory only. It has to be developed through experience. So at this point, I'd like to briefly talk about the School Enterprise Challenge program and how planning and running a school business is a really great vehicle for students to develop this entrepreneurial mindset that we're talking about. So I'd like to know, those of you that are in today's webinar, have you taken part in the School Enterprise Challenge before? I'm going to be launching another poll on screen in just a moment, so you can let us know, have you ever taken part in the School Enterprise Challenge before? Just give you a few more seconds to finish voting. Okay, so most of you have voted now, so I will leave it there. It's about half and a half, but a few more of you have actually never taken part in the School Enterprise Challenge before. So for those of you that don't know, the School Enterprise Challenge is a free educational program run by us here at Teach a Man to Fish. And for the last 10 years, we have been supporting participants who are groups of students and teachers from schools all over the world to plan, set up, and run their very own student-led real school businesses. So school teams come up with really exciting and innovative business ideas. They write their own business plan, and then they go on to actually launch and run their business. selling a real product or service to real people and earning real money. And over the years, we've seen school teams set up all sorts of different businesses like tuck shops, plant nurseries, handicraft, stationery, and so on. And having the chance to go on this entrepreneurial journey at such a young age is a great way for learners to develop the entrepreneurial mindset characteristics, which we were talking about earlier, because the process involves innovating, problem solving, risk taking, learning from failure. And ultimately, it's a really rewarding experience which builds students' confidence and their belief in themselves and their ability to succeed. So you can find out more about the program and register your school to take part on our website, www.schoolenterprisechallenge.org. I also really recommend that you check out webinar 6 on YouTube. That's the Q&A with teachers who have facilitated groups of their students to take part, so you can hear all about it from their perspective and not just take my word for it. Okay, so that being said, let's move on now, and I will introduce you to a few activities which you can use with your learners to get them thinking about the topic of entrepreneurial mindset. So the first activity is storytelling and reflection. It only takes about half an hour, and if you're not at school at the moment, it's definitely possible to do this one remotely over Zoom or WhatsApp, for example. So first of all, you need to pick about 4 people you know who demonstrate the qualities and characteristics of having an entrepreneurial mindset, which we've just spoken about. And there are hundreds of stories and videos online of such people like Bill Gates, Oprah Winfrey, Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg. There's definitely no shortage of inspirational examples to pick from. So I suggest that you pick a couple of famous people like that, who your learners will probably have heard of, and then also a couple of examples who are a bit closer to home. So it could be alumni from your school or successful people in your local community or country. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be an entrepreneur, because successful athletes, for example, they have many of the same traits of an entrepreneurial mindset as entrepreneurs do, like grit and a drive towards excellence and mastering their sport. Either way, though, it is important that some of the case studies that you pick are really relatable in your context, because we want to make sure that entrepreneurship and having an entrepreneurial mindset feel attainable for every young person, regardless of their gender, their race, religion, or economic background. So what you'll do is start by dividing your learners into small groups, and you'll give each group a case study to read through or watch. So as an example case study, in a moment, I am going to play you a video about Jack Ma. And in case you don't know, Jack Ma is a Chinese billionaire. He's a businessman and philanthropist, and he's the co-founder of Alibaba.com, which is a hugely successful e-commerce store, particularly in China. It's similar to Amazon, and it focuses more on trade between businesses. So it's a platform for suppliers to sell products in bulk at wholesale prices to small or medium-sized businesses all around the world, who then resell them for a profit in their own countries. So let's take a look at this case study together, this video of Jack Ma.
I have a rich father. I tried 3 times for university. All failed. I applied for Harvard for 10 times. All failed. They don't even want to see me. For the last time, I went to the teachers' college, which was considered the 3rd or 4th class of my city. So I applied jobs for 30 times, got rejected. It was so difficult at that time. I was so frustrated because I taught in the university. My pay was $10 a month. because I could not find a good job in 1994, discussed that I'm going to do something called internet. And 23 of them against it. They said, this is a stupid idea. We have never heard about internet, and you know nothing about computer. And I never thought I was smart. Nobody believed that I could be successful, because everybody said, well, this guy think differently, think crazily, they think about something never work. I tried to borrow $3,000 from the banks. Took me 3 months, but I still cannot get it. We talked to over 30 or 40 venture capitalists. Everybody said, no, forget it. A lot of people said Alibaba is a terrible model. As I said, I believe it. I think this thing could be big if we keep on working. I never thought it would be that big like today. But I believe that something is waiting for me there. And I have to work hard to prove myself. That was the tough experience. So we gathered $50,000 from 18 founders. We started. For the first 3 years, we did not have even $1 revenue from our business. It was not easy.
You don't make any money. You've got extraordinary claims, and yet you make nothing. That's interesting. Yes, but what's the point? Are you a millionaire? Now? No. Do you want to be? Well, I hope.
But why it keeps us going ahead, going forward? Because I received lots of email of thanks from the customers. They say, this is such a great thing. We cannot pay you, but this thing helped us. If you keep on helping us, one day you will be successful. And I believe this. Little by little, we build up our business. Little by little, we build up our ecosystem of the infrastructure. And now, after 16 years, we have an Alibaba group, we have a Tmall group, we have a Taobao group, we have an Alipay. And people said, you are so smart. How could you make a company like that? Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jack Welch, Larry Page, Mark Zuckerberg. The difference between those people and other people, they are always optimistic for the future. They never complain. They always try to solve the problems of the others. When you're optimistic, it's always opportunity. People, same here today. Jeff, where is the opportunity? I don't have a job. I don't have this. I don't have that. The best assets you have is that you are young. Don't complain. Let the other people complain. The opportunity always lies where people complain. Think about how you can make things different. And then when you think about this, start to do it. I saw a lot of people, young people, have fantastic ideas every evening. But in the morning, they go to the office same again. If you really want to be entrepreneur, you have to do the things before the other people do. You have to wake up before the other people wake up. You have to be more brave than the others. When I was young, I went to Hangzhou, Western Lake. There's a hotel. Many foreign visitors visit there. And I went there every morning, 5 o'clock, to practice my English. The foreign visitors come, I practice my English. I don't know why at that time. But I found everything the foreign visitors told me are so different from the things my parents told me, my teacher told me, and the newspaper I read. So since then, I think everything use my own brain. Use your own brain to think. To everybody, to any person, tomorrow is new. Make the move. Make the action. Whether investors believe it is or not, whether your friends believe it or not, whether your parents believe it or not, that's not important. You believe it. Your team believes it. And work day and night on this. Make enough mistakes. You fall, you stand up. If you really want to work with yourself, think about the others. Because only when the other people are successful, when the other people are happy, you will be successful. You will be happy. Don't worry about the money. Money follow the people. People should follow the dreams. If you have a dream, just to go ahead.
Okay, so that is Jack Ma's very powerful video, I'm sure you'll agree. And there's a lot to unpack there, and we will have a moment to discuss it. But just before we do, coming back to the instructions for this activity. So after your students have read or watched the case studies which you've selected about people with an entrepreneurial mindset like Jack Ma, then you will get them to discuss them in a group. So I'm going to share with you now a few reflection questions which you could ask your students to help prompt the discussion. So the first one is, what do you find most fascinating about this person's work and life? The second question, which entrepreneurial characteristics do you think that this person has? And do you have any of those same characteristics? Now, sometimes it can be hard to recognize these qualities in ourselves. So this is quite a good one to get your students to answer in pairs. So each student can tell the other one which of the same entrepreneurial characteristics they think that that other person has as the person that's featured in this story. The third question is, what difficulties or constraints or setbacks did this person face? And how did they overcome them? And finally, what is your greatest learning or takeaway from that story? Okay, so now we can take a moment to answer those questions ourselves about the video of Jack Ma. So I'd love to know what you thought of it, what your greatest learning or takeaway was, and which characteristics of an entrepreneurial mindset you recognized in his story. If you'd like to share your comments, if you'd like to speak with the group, in fact, please do let me know in the chat box, and I'll invite one of you to turn on your video and audio and share what you took away with the rest of the group. In the meantime, I can see that lots of you have left comments to say you found it really inspirational, motivating, and educational, which is great to hear, and hopefully your students would agree. Kamal has commented that an optimistic mindset opens up channels to lead a person to success. Absolutely. Aisha says that they recognize creative solutions in Jack Ma's work. That's very true as well. And Shubnam commented as well about not giving up after failing over and over again. Never to give up hope, says Kamal. Plan, and move towards your goal. Absolutely. Thank you very much, everyone, for sharing your comments. So we're going to move on now and have a look at the next activity, which is all about helping students to start thinking about their own skills and experience and dreams for the future. So this second activity only takes about 30 minutes, and all students will need is a paper, pens, and an open mind. So you should start by explaining to your learners that we are all capable of more than we achieve, but we'll never know what's truly possible until we try. And what holds us back is not necessarily our lack of experience or skills, but our willingness to try new things, to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone, and to risk failing sometimes. And as we mentioned in a previous webinar, at Teach a Man to Fish, we like to think that FAIL actually stands for First Attempt in Learning. So in this activity, your students are going to create their very own superhero profile. So first of all, you'll get students to spend a few minutes drawing themselves as a superhero. So you'll see one on screen that we created earlier. And And to help them with this, get your students to note down beside their picture the answers to these few prompt questions. So the first one is things that I love. In this example, the student's written, I love being creative, spending time with my friends, and singing. The second prompt is things that I don't like. So this student has said speaking in front of other people as something she doesn't like, and English class. The third prompt is things that I am good at. So for this student, it is creative things like painting and drawing. Fourthly, things that I want to improve. So in this example, it's my communication skills, like speaking in front of other people. The fifth thing is steps that I can take to improve these things. So this student has identified that she could practice her communication by giving speeches and presenting her ideas and work in front of other people, and also talking to different people who aren't her close friends. Then the fifth prompt is things that are important to me, so my values. And this student has said that it's really important to her that girls have the same opportunities as boys. And finally, things that motivate me. So in this example, the student has noted down she's motivated by learning new things. So after that, you're then going to get your students to spend about 10 or 15 minutes thinking about the following questions, which are to do with their future, and writing down their answers. So the questions are, first of all, what do I want to do after school? So in this example, the learner has said that she would like to be a fashion designer. Secondly, what skills and experience do I need to make this happen? So this student has identified, she thinks that in order to be a fashion designer, she'll need creative skills like drawing, sewing, designing, and experience making her own clothes. The third question is, what challenges might stand in my way? So this student recognises that she'll face a lot of competition from other people who might have more experience than her. And she also says that she's not sure that she's good enough, so she's got a lack of confidence. And the final question is, how can I overcome these challenges? And it can help here to remind students about the entrepreneurial mindset characteristics, which they discovered through the case studies in the previous activity, like being determined, not being afraid of taking risks, and so on. So in this example, the student says that she can gain experience by making clothes for herself, her family, and her friends. And she could also hold a fashion show at school to get more exposure of her work and to show how passionate she is about becoming a fashion designer. So those are the 4 questions for part 2 of that activity. And after students have completed this activity, you can wrap up by explaining that by thinking about their dreams for the future, the things that might stop them from achieving their dreams, and the solutions to overcoming those challenges, students have developed their ability to aim high. And by aiming high, we mean having the ability to set clear goals and a clear plan for achieving them, knowing when something is difficult and making a plan to overcome it, staying positive, and finally finding the information and the support network that you need to help bring your vision to life. So there you have it, the superhero profile activity, the 7 prompt questions, things I love, things I don't like, things I'm good at, things I want to improve, steps I can take to improve these things that are important to me, and things that motivate me, followed by the 4 questions which are to do with students' future. So what they want to do after school, the skills and experience that they need to make that happen, the challenges that might stand in their way, and how they think they can overcome those challenges. So we've got a moment now to talk about this activity. If you've got any comments to share, any questions, please do let me know in the chat box. And we've got a couple of moments to speak about this one before we move on. I can see already that Payal said that it's a really nice activity. Rekha thinks it's meaningful. And Shalini says that it's very relevant to an entrepreneurial mindset, which is great. If you've got anything else to add, please do let me know in the chat box. Okay, lots of you saying how much you like the activity. That's great. Okay, so the final thing which I wanted to share with you today is not an activity as such, but it is a tool which you can share with your learners to have up their sleeves and to refer back to. So as we saw with the example of Jack Ma's video, entrepreneurial people, they don't become successful overnight often. They actually inevitably face challenges and setbacks, and it's how they respond to those challenges which makes all the difference. So it's really crucial that when learners face setbacks at school or with their school business and later in life, that they're able to stay positive and they have strategies to help them stay positive. So we have developed a set of 5 affirmations which can help learners to develop their entrepreneurial mindset and personal agency. And I'll run you through what these 5 statements are now. So the first one is, I believe in myself and my ability to achieve the goals I set for myself. So this one relates to self-efficacy. In other words, I believe in my ability to achieve the goals which I set for myself, to influence my own life outcomes and to achieve whatever it is that I put my mind to. The second affirmation is, I am in control of what I do. So this means having an internal locus of control. In other words, it's saying, I control my own destiny. My success is the result of my own effort and hard work. The third affirmation is, when I face challenges, I face them with optimism, and I remind myself that challenges are opportunities in disguise. The fourth affirmation is, I am motivated by the task and not the reward. So this one's about being intrinsically motivated. I have an inner drive and I'm motivated to do things by the satisfaction and joy of doing and accomplishing them. And the fifth affirmation is, I can learn whatever I need to enable me to reach my goal. So this links back to the power of yet, which we spoke about in the growth mindset webinar. So it could come from studying, from practicing and failing, or learning from others like a mentor or teacher. So you can share these 5 affirmations with your learners and encourage them to repeat them to themselves next time they get stuck. And you could also stick them up on the wall as a poster in your classroom so that your learners have them front of mind. Now, of course, just saying these things doesn't make them true. But even if your learners don't have or believe that they have all of the characteristics of an entrepreneurial mindset just yet, still affirming and repeating these beliefs is a really positive step in the right direction, because it makes conscious something that may for some learners have been unconscious. And if they become aware that these are all things that they have the power to change, then they can start making the steps that they need to make these changes in their life. And ultimately, it reinforces the message that the attributes of an entrepreneurial and growth mindset can be learned and developed over time, even if students don't have them all just yet. So these are really powerful affirmations for your learners to keep in mind as they take part in an experiential learning program like the School Enterprise Challenge. So that is that tool, the 5 beliefs of an entrepreneurial person. Do let me know if you've got any comments or questions about it. Perhaps if there are any other affirmations that you might add when you share this with your learners. I'll give you a minute or two to share your thoughts and comments on this tool. Manoj has added a simple one, simply, I am the best. That's quite powerful. Thank you for your comment, Manoj. And Weisfer says that these positive affirmations will help to develop self-confidence, absolutely. Self-confidence and self-belief with your learners. Varsha has added, go get it. I love that one too. Really powerful. Thank you for sharing your comments on this activity, and please do continue to leave your comments in the chat box. I'm afraid though that is all that we have time for me to share today. But if you would like to learn more about the entrepreneurial mindset, there are tons of great resources online. I have included a couple of interesting articles on this slide, including a couple of stories which you could use as case studies for the storytelling and reflection activity. So there's a link there to the video of Jack Ma, which we watched. And there's another really nice article about a young teenage entrepreneur called Avani Singh. But of course, as I mentioned, you're welcome to find your own examples which are more relevant to your local context. And in the next webinar in this series, we will be building on today's topic to look at what it means to be a problem seeker and why understanding the problems in your community is the first step for learners to come up with a successful business idea. So we'll share practical activities and tools which your learners can use to discover and to analyze the needs in their community, and in doing so to develop empathy, which is an essential entrepreneurial skill. So if you haven't already, make sure to register to join us for webinar 8. It is taking place on this Thursday, the 25th of June at 3 p.m. British Summer Time. And again, next Tuesday, the 30th of June at midday, that's 12 p.m. British Summer Time. And I'll include the links to register when I share these presentation slides later today. And after webinar 8, we will be running even more webinars, continuing on the theme of cultivating entrepreneurial mindsets and preparing young people for the future, a journey from business idea to plan. So make sure to stay connected with us on social media to find out when they are happening. And finally, remember, if you're not already taking part in the School Enterprise Challenge, you can find out everything that you need to know and register for free to take part via our website, which is www.schoolenterprisechallenge.org. Finally, as promised, you can get your attendance certificate for attending today's webinar by filling in this very short survey. I will post the link to the survey in the chat box now, and I'll also share it with you by email along with the slides after today's webinar. And your feedback is really, really important to help us develop future webinars which are of interest and useful to you. So please do take a moment to fill in the survey. Make sure to type your name and email address correctly, because your certificate will be emailed to you after you fill in the survey. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. That's the end of today's webinar. You're free to go now, but I'll just stay here for another couple of minutes to answer any last remaining questions that you might have. Thanks, everyone, and goodbye.